I hate that first few seconds of the cameras rolling. You're probably used to it.
No.
No? Still not used to it?
No, because you got to work out every interviewer's technique, and I've seen yours, so that's why I'm not used to it.
Yeah, you shouldn't be used to it. I'm not used to it either. Having said that, though, thank you so much for sitting down with us, Bill Shorten. I really appreciate it. You might know this man from Sky News. I don't know where, like, you're around?
Yeah, around.
Yeah.
Sky News.
You're a recognisable man.
After Dark. Yeah.
I would love if you started a show on Sky when you retire. That'd be amazing. Like, no bull with Bill.
Sky's not offering, and so I'm not retiring.
Not yet. But, you know, Rico will probably be retiring soon, but in the meantime, I've got something else for you.
Great.
It's a gift.
Thank you.
And I want to see this on your desk as well. You better take a photo of it because...
What is it?
We heard... But before actually I give this to you, I just need to ask you this about... Because I also heard that you really like toy soldiers.
There's miniature history.
I also heard that you like to call them that.
Everybody's got, I guess, it's a cute habit.
I think
Small
so too.
history.
And I used to be into them as well as a kid, but because I was a kid, I couldn't afford them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I could afford Warhammer. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I'm not so into Warhammer.
Well, that's a shame because we got you a shifty Shorten robot.
Okay, that'll go on the desk. That's great, thank you.
He doesn't care. You know how much effort went into that? Like these things take, like, I don't know, 40 hours to make that? Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks.
Jordy. I didn't realise you were so emotionally needy. Okay, this is a beautiful plastic toy. Thank you.
Oh, for crying... Okay, well, anyway, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Dr. Rowe.
No,
Thanks
you.
for putting in all that time and painting it for free.
We say thank you. What's his name? Or her name? Its name?
No, it's Shifty Shorten because it's a ghost battle suit and it goes behind scenes. And I was just reading Malcolm Turnbull's biography and good. Half of it is him just saying to you broke it!
Oh no. I didn't break it. I didn't break it. Do I have to take responsibility for that? Okay.
I think we're going to cut the camera. This is really silly.
There you go. Listen, he's wounded, that's all. He's wounded. Could you give me one which isn't broken?
Oh my God. Okay, I think you're ruining it. We'll just put this there. It's already incapacitated. Well, that is a really good start. That really tops me breaking Tanya Plibersek's family's china.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Ooh.
And
she's still talking about that.
Well, yeah, anyway. That was your gift.
Thank you. I didn't bring you a gift.
No, I didn't expect it.
No, that's not.
No, that's yours. And I don't really want the germs, but thank you. It's COVID. But
Melbourne COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit sad.
How was that?
This is the first time I've been to Sydney in over a year. When I got out of the car, I was shocked. No one's wearing masks. I was, I felt like running around to everyone saying, "Put your masks on." But then I realised you're not in Melbourne.
Right. Okay. Right. So, would you describe the situation in Melbourne as dystopic?
Oh, it's had its moments. It's been hard on people. I'm going to fix this while we talk.
I really don't trust you with that at all, but
it's just...
I don't think you can fix it without glue.
What? Go on, I'm listening to you.
You're making it worse. You are, like, you're really stressing me out here.
Okay, we need some sensitivity. All right. Give me one that works, Jordan. Okay.
That's all you get. You're never getting another tower robot. You ruin it.
I'm going to have to declare it, aren't I? Is it over $300? No. Sorry, stupid question.
I think it is. You know, I actually do think, look, Warhammer is unbelievably expensive. And here's the other thing. Unlike your hobby, it's not antique. So I really don't... It's a racket. That's what it is. And when you get into government, I hope that you do something to break up their monopoly. But...
Okay.
You take that to the cabinet. In regards to the toy soldiers... Sorry. Historical miniatures.
Yeah. Small history.
Small history. What is that about? Why are you doing that?
Don't know. I mean, I do know. I like history. And sometimes it's interesting to have some physical representations of it.
And so what have you got? Tell us about your proudest collection items.
My Romans are good.
You into Roman history?
Yeah.
All right.
And I like my Napoleonics. Napoleon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool because I don't know anything about Napoleonic history except for I assume it has something to do with Napoleon.
You guys would have got on, I think. You and Napoleon.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I don't think that.
Short men with chips on our shoulders.
No.
And also I hear that you're really into Australian history.
Love Australian history. Love all forms of history, really.
Yeah.
It's how we learn.
But are you a buff in Australian history or are you more into ancient Roman history?
I like lots of history. That's the degree I did at university.
Yeah?
History, yeah. My mum used to write history books, so maybe I got that love of history from her.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe this is all right with you, Mr. Shorten. Sorry, Bill.
Bill.
Like the.
Yeah.
He's not wearing a tie. It's cool.
No time.
I was thinking that it would be quite hip of you if you told the kids a little bit about the Eureka Stockade. Mostly because I don't know anything about it either, except for that one picture that's hanging up here.
Oh, well, Eureka Stockade, there's two versions of it. I mean, it's one set of facts, but two interpretations.
Really?
It was the miners were looking for gold,
Yeah.
and the colonial authorities wanted them to pay more, wanted to pay a licence fee.
Yeah.
And the miners were unhappy with that because a lot of them hadn't actually found gold, but they still had to pay the licence fee to be allowed to dig for gold. And as the licence fee was going up, the miners said, hey, we're just battling workers here and we can't afford it. And they had a meeting at a pub on a Saturday and it got pretty rowdy. People got worked up and they decided that they were going to raise the Southern Cross and say no more. They weren't going to just agree to this because the miners didn't have any political say. And then on the Sunday, I think it was the Sunday, the British Army turned up and there was some firearms exchanged and shots fired and the miners lost.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the birth of the union movement.
Was, but
And not much has changed.
another theory could be that these miners were contractors and they were small businessmen and they didn't want to pay taxes. So it could have been a small... So both the right and the left could claim Eureka. It could be the birthplace of unions and the workers, or it could have been small business people saying we don't want to pay a small business
Why don't the
revolt.
Liberals just sit on that then? They should just say that, no, this was just the Tea Party movement down under.
Yeah, because they're not that imaginative.
Right, okay, so you guys just took it because you're a little more creative.
Well, I think it's
like
true, but
funding
it was
the arts.
also the Southern Cross. I think that was a great image. And,
Yeah.
you know, my family legend has it because we had family, on one side of my family, they were former convicts and then they went looking for, others jumped ship and went looking for gold. The family legend is that when Peter Lawler, who was the leader of the revolt, or one of the leaders of the revolt, was on the run from the police, my family hid him. But I don't know.
So they're do-gooders for generations.
Yeah, they're sceptics for generations, and they never.
They were
found,
harbouring convicts, yeah.
and they never found any gold. So we just keep battling through.
Could go into that further, but I'll save you the grace of it, Bill.
Okay.
The reason that I was bringing that up, though, is because that's sort of just how the union movement began in Australia, right?
Yeah, I think it did. You know, Australia was a new country, and from the outset of European settlement, new country, it was always viewed as the land of the second chance. And I think that, you know, be it the building workers who went on strike working on the state parliament, the colonial parliament of Victoria, through to seafarers in Sydney, through to shearers right throughout the East Coast, they wanted to do things differently to the old world. And one of those things they were going to do differently is establish conditions for working people. And that's where the Labor Party was formed. So it was the desire that working people should be able to have 8 hours rest, 8 hours work, 8 hours study. It was the view that they should have reasonable safety conditions. It was the view that they should be paid properly. And I just think that's the Australian third way, and it's the way we've always done things. We weren't America even, we weren't the UK, we weren't Europe, we just did our own thing.
Because that's why I guess the way that you would sum up the US, for instance, is they're really into the idea of liberty and freedom. But don't you think that the catch cry that every politician always tries to dish out is like the fair go? Do you think that that's because of the roots that we had? And that we just like, it's actually, Australia has a really strong union history. And I think that not everyone really understands that the reason that Australia is such a good country to live in is because we had that set up. I don't know, you're a history buff. Isn't that the case, though?
Yeah, I think, short answer, yes. The Labor Party in Australia is formed from a whole lot of strands. There's the union strand, and that was a movement all around the world where, as the Industrial Revolution was going through, people moved from being farmers to working in factories, and they wanted representation, they wanted a say. But it was also, there were famous people in England, the Christian socialists, and there was a sort of Charles Dickens, even John Stuart Mill, these sort of British political thinkers and writers started highlighting the unfairness of the Industrial Revolution and a sense that people are equal and deserve an equal go. And that's what makes Australian Labor relatively unique in the world. We've always believed, I think, in a generous safety net. We've always believed in pluralism. In other words, there's a role for the church, there's a role for unions, there's a role for employers. That what makes a democracy strong is when the different parts of the society or the economy all have a say. So there's the pluralism, there's the generous safety net, the wages, the healthcare system, the pension, and then the third element, I think, which is that we've never been Marxist or communist. We've never wanted just for the government to own everything. We believe in markets, but the markets have got to operate fairly. Whereas in America, they went down that libertarian approach, and the unions were strong periodically in America, but they got smashed.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, we formed a political party and worked with other people, and as a result, we were able to form governments, and we use our change not just in the workplace, but we would legislate the experience of working people to ensure a generous safety net.
Do you think that that's the reason that you joined the Labor Party, is because you had a strong interest in history?
Partly. We're all, our parents, they influence us, don't they?
So your parents influenced you? Because I've just got to say this story. I think the reason that I'm so pro-Labor, how Freudian is this? The first memory I have is the 1996 election. My parents were at a party. John Howard wins. Everybody at the party is obviously devastated because they're all Laborites. And then my mum points at the TV and says, "You see that man, Jordan? He's a bad man." That's my first memory. I swear that's the only reason I like the Labor Party today. But go on, is that pretty much what you have?
Sure.
What is your first memory of politics? You got something from when you were just probably stealing nappies.
I mean, this puts me, when I was 8, it was 1975.
Stealing nappies,
and Gough Whitlam
we all make mistakes.
It's all Arrested Development, you get there eventually, don't you?
You got there at 36. Yeah.
Okay, somehow I feel I'm just a mirror for you here, but...
No, you're not. I'm really interested.
No, that's all right. I just feel that... yeah, sure, my comment stands. But I remember everyone arguing about the dismissal. And I remember sitting under some stairs at my local Catholic primary school outside saying they shouldn't sack him. I don't know. So...
Yeah?
But my parents were always sceptics. They always said... they taught me to be anti-establishment a bit, not to just assume that just because someone's rich or just because someone's popular that you automatically have to agree with them. They'd always been rank and file members of unions. I had family members who were in the Seafarers Union or the Shipwrights Union, and so you'd always hear about union stories. So, if you like, my exposure to Labor was in part because my family believed in unions. So that was part of it. Study of history. I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic now, but...
was your family into the DLP or no?
Oh, my dad was English, so he wouldn't... DLP was just... In the north of England, religion didn't get involved in politics, perhaps to the extent it did in Australia. So his family had always been union, and he was a seafarer. On mum's side, I think the family did have big arguments about the split. Two of my aunts became nuns, you know. My great-uncle was 12, apparently, as the family story goes, and during the 1920s and 30s there wasn't much money, and you know, I remember my aunt telling me that my great-uncle was sort of given to the Christian Brothers to raise because the family couldn't afford to raise him themselves. So there's been a strand of religion in my family, but both my aunts stopped being nuns, you know, so there's, again, the Christian teachings rubbed off on me, but perhaps not necessarily respecting all the institutions or genuflecting to the institutions, but the idea that everyone has a unique soul, you know, that everyone has something special in them, I think that's... Whether or not you believe in an invisible friend giving you infallible advice is one thing, but if the idea that you, me and everyone else has got something special about us and deserves that chance for that to come to the fore. So a bit of religion, bit of history, bit of family experience.
Right.
That led me to join the Labor Party when I was 17.
You started early. Was there such a thing as young Labor back then?
Yeah, it wasn't very well organised.
So you just went straight to the source?
So I joined my local branch. It's funny though, I was very excited. I rang up my local MPs, they were Labor MPs, and said I'd like to join. They said that's good, and they sent me a letter, and it's a stupid story, but I don't know, because it was on typewriters, the branch secretary said your nest meeting, not your next meeting. And I remember thinking they're called nests. Anyway, I just realised.
I wish that you had stilled that. I wish that was part of your legacy, just so you would write.
Well, see, if we were branches, and then I thought, well, it's not unreasonable, I guess, to have a nest in a branch.
Right. Oh my God.
I know, but
yours makes more sense.
yeah, possibly not.
Well, look, I think that it was a stroke of genius. I think that it just actually does show that
Things happen for a reason.
you make the best of a bad situation. That's what that shows.
That's what you've got to do in politics sometimes.
Yeah. And so then you joined your nest, and after you joined the Labor Party, when did you move into the union movement?
Well, I did an arts and law degree at Monash University in Melbourne, and that was good. And the best part of doing my law was I worked at the Springvale Community Legal Service, and that taught me a lot because this was the late 80s, and a lot of the Vietnamese boat people had sort of come to Australia and lived in that area really from 1977, 79 onwards. But so a lot of Vietnamese Australians, but a lot of them didn't have great English, and so the community legal service taught me to shut up and listen to people. If someone's trying to tell you a legal problem in another language and you've got an interpreter, you've just got to take time. So I liked the law. You know, I did a bit of workers' comp law, and I graduated, and I liked helping injured workers, but it really hammered home to me that you'd meet someone who's lost an arm, or you meet someone who's got a disease, an industrial disease, and you could help them get their compensation. But what attracted me to the union was maybe if I could work at the union, I could stop them getting injured in the first place, so they then didn't have all the trauma and the grief of the compensation.
God, isn't it amazing that that's your formative years, and Malcolm Turnbull's was, how do I set up a bank?
Well, Turnbull also did want to become the head of my union once. He said that to people in this Labor Council building. He said,
no.
Well, I mean, I think Malcolm... Anyway, Malcolm's a separate story. But,
he is a separate story. Sorry, this interview is about you, but I'm just...
But,
it's a force of habit.
No, I love my 12 or 14 years in the union.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't punching a ticket to become a Labor MP. I've always wanted to be in politics, and I understand what parliaments can do and leaders can do. But I found, as I worked in the Australian Workers' Union and the Iron Workers' Union, they merged, I went to workplaces all over Australia. My job was to unionise non-union workshops. So you'd turn up at the gate, you'd say, I'd like to speak to the workers. They'd tell you to get lost, not the workers, the management. And you had to keep coming back and show some confidence, and you had to keep, turn up at lunchtime. And I used to organise the metal industry and scrap yards, and the scrap industries, that is the Wild West. And we organised farms. I'd fly out on helicopters and go to oil rigs, and I'd talk to shearers and strappers at the race course and jockeys and you name it. So I've been very lucky to have met the people I've met and helped try and improve their conditions along the way. But it's a great calling. But what I find these days, a lot of young people wouldn't know what a union was.
Yeah, I know.
I guess that's the challenges on the union movement. You can complain if they don't know who you are, but maybe you've got to get out and sell the message more.
Maybe. I think it's the press, but anyway.
Don't be too cynical at such a young age.
I'm not cynical about the union movement at all. I love the union movement, but I think it's just been...
Sure,
there's been
it's
like
hard.
a 100-year propaganda campaign against it to make it seem like it's this, filled with gangsters and thugs, such as yourself.
Well, we wasted 80 million Royal Commission. Thank you, Tony Abbott. No adverse findings.
Oh, speaking of thuggery, can we talk about some of your more hairy stories when you're at the AWU?
Yes.
The ones that you talk about over beers, without the beers.
I remember one time I had a little team of young organisers, and I don't know, I wouldn't have been, I was in my late 20s, and we got a message that a couple of hours north of Melbourne in the Goulburn Valley, the fruit pickers were going on strike, tomato pickers. And I remember thinking, oh, this is, wow, it's happening. Organic uprising. People want to join the union, they want to get paid better rates. So we drove up there, but it was an 8-day dispute. The pickers were refusing to pick the tomatoes at the rate that they were paid by the farmers. And on its surface, I thought, okay, this seems like right and wrong, black and white. I remember going to the picnic grounds or the caravan parks and getting on the tables and saying, righto, we'll start negotiations. Everyone doesn't pick the tomatoes, and sooner or later we'll get a lift in the bin rate. A bin of tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, was 500 kilos. And the bin rate used to be $37, $38, and we wanted to, the pickers told me they wanted to go to $50 a bin. But it was a little more complex than that, And one of the golden lessons I learned out of that 8 days is this: there's always two sides of every story. So whilst we were right to push to get the pickers their improvement in the bin rates, a lot of the pickers were Turkish, some of the farmers were of Italian background, so there perhaps had been some cultural disagreements over the years, football, soccer, just you name it. So
right. And the circular nature of the
of
fruit reminded them of soccer.
Yeah, maybe 500 years of Mediterranean conflict, I don't know.
Well, that might have helped as well. It's a rich tapestry.
It's a rich tapestry. Shep and Goulburn Valley, very interesting. But when we turned up at one farm, and the farmer was clearly not happy to see, there were 10 carloads of pickers on strike. There was a police car at the front of the flying picket and a police car at the back, because everyone was getting a bit hot-headed, and, can't do that. Punching on doesn't, violence never solves anything, Jordan. And,
okay, thanks for listening.
But I remember one of the farmers went to the boot of his car and he pulled out a firearm and said, no one's coming on the farm. And I remember thinking, and the pickers didn't particularly like that attitude, whereas I thought he was making a serious point. And I remember clearly the man is upset. Maybe we should just walk away and we can talk about it. And I realised, we created the Industrial Relations Commission. So I got 100 years of lesson in... I remember that. Anyway, I think I issued apologies to everyone all round, and...
Right.
Anyway, we came to a resolution.
One of your staffers just said that, once you said, I really like this quote of yours, can we just get this on the record, that when a gun is pointed at you, all of your philosophy just flies away.
Well, you realise that there's two sides to every story.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, no, that was probably colourful.
Yeah.
And
so that happens to union organisers.
Well, ideally not a lot, no.
Ideally not a lot?
No, I'm not sure it does happen a lot. And certainly that didn't happen to me. Sometimes you'd turn up to a factory and people would get hot under the collar, and then they'd threaten you. That's not cool, but, you're just sort of...
I saw some early footage of you in the 80s. And, I think it just prepared you for a life in politics, because it seemed like everyone was nasty to you. So you just got 10 years of people yelling abuse.
Most of it was really professional. It was it's a colourful story, but that's more to throw light and shade on everything else. We were able to lift the conditions of workers, and we would, 99% of the time, you'd work it through with the employers. A couple of times I really sort of got very emotionally engaged in what was going on. I remember Esso, they're a giant multinational. They have more money than you can imagine. You could but they had money which would flow out of these buildings and every other building, and they are in the oil business, the oil and gas business, but they had they developed Bass Strait, and there's lots of oil rigs offshore, and a gas plant exploded. It was terrible at Longford, just onshore where the pipes all come in with the gas. And 2 men were killed, and 2 were badly burned. Melbourne, Victoria was without gas for 10 days. You know, it was a massive impact on industry, but at the heart of it, 2 men died. And 2 men were badly burned. And I will always regret, and I got very fired up about this, that the company chose to blame the workers and said, listen, if they'd been trained to deal with a situation and they didn't measure up to their training, so it was their fault. And that was a complete lie. It was completely wrong. And funnily enough, actually, Jeff Kennett called a Royal Commission, and even he sort of didn't join in on... He was quite fair in that process, actually. And so initially the legal case of the company was to blame the workers. By the end of a coronial inquiry and a Supreme Court matter and a Royal Commission, the workers all got bravery awards and they got exonerated. They didn't get blamed. It wasn't their fault. The company had never trained them to recognise the risks that was going on.
No.
And that was good. You can make a difference when you're a union rep.
Yeah.
You can make a difference. So it's a bit like the Beaconsfield gold mine where, you know, I turned up there. I was in Canada and I heard about the 3 of our members that disappeared. They didn't come out when there was a massive rockfall at this gold mine in northern Tasmania. And I came back from Canada because I thought I was going to go to the funeral, and because I just didn't want the workers getting blamed. Because normally poo goes from the top to the bottom and hits those without, you know, the ability to advocate for themselves. It was a remarkable... And one man did die, Larry Knight, but I'll never forget being at the front of the mine superintendent's hut or office when about 2.5 days in, these guys disappeared. The rockfall was the night of Anzac Day, 2006. And I think it was about 2 or 3 days later, they said they'd found Larry's body, you know, so they were trying to excavate back to... It was 900 metres under the ground, but along the shaft And I forget who said it, but I think one of the authorities said, oh, well, this is no longer a rescue, it's a recovery. And these gritty guys just, you know, they weren't special forces, they weren't test cricket players, they weren't your standard hero. They're just tough guys in mine for a living. And they said, it's still a rescue till we find them. And then we found out another 2 days later that they were alive. Were alive. And then there was another 9 days to rescue them, because we live in this Insta age, don't we? If if our internet isn't working, people go catatonic. And but this is 9 days that we couldn't get them out. But every day, and the people doing the rescuing were the direct employees of the company. There was a contractor too, and they kneeled in a 900 centimetre hole and they just drilled through rock and they rescued them. But I'll never forget the blokes who said at this mine manager's office, you know, it's not over yet. You know, that's a gift to have just even seen it.
Would you say that is one of your proudest moments of your career? Because you really were key to that, weren't you?
I tell you, I was rapt. I was there, and I was rapt to be able to perform a role. I was proud when the 2 men came out of the ground and they tagged out. I was proud when 2 days later they attended the union meeting in the local church hall. That's when I was proud. Okay. Because their families said the union had been standing with them. These guys were world-class product. You know, these 2 miners underground, 14 days. It had given us a glimpse of life. I mean, a lot of Australians don't know much about mining and country towns. And this was a town that had rallied, but I was proud that the 2 guys who were the heroes, they were the heroes, and the rescuers were the heroes. I was proud when the guys who rescued them and the men who survived came to the union meeting afterwards. That's when I was proudest.
Right.
So it wasn't ever about me, and sure, it was great to play a role. But I'm also proud in the little wins that we've had. You know, when got a back pay for a jockey, or you know, a jockey who's been traumatically injured and in a wheelchair. And you know, it's 10 years later when I was handing out leaflets, I think, at Frankston Railway Station in the 2016 election, and you know, one of the wife came up and said, "Do you remember when we did this?" The things which make me proud is not the headlines; they're great. You know, you can put them on the glory wall, and that's fine. What makes me proud is when someone I worked with 20 years ago comes up to me, the Q and JB Hi-Fi, and says to my daughter, "Your dad helped get me the best wages I've ever had." So it's the appreciation of ordinary people. That's what I really love.
See, kids, that's why you should join your union, because they'll pull you out of a mine. Don't you reckon? Like, the company would have been like, it's cheaper, leave him there.
Oh, no, the company wanted to do... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they did.
No, the company wanted to do the right... Everyone focused on the rescue. It wasn't an us and them thing, but...
But it really seems like it was you guys that were organising it.
Sometimes in a disaster, maybe the media want to paint the blackest sky possible, and maybe the management want to present the bluest sky possible. The truth's somewhere in between, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes in the rescue there were good things happening, and sometimes in the rescue there were shit things happening. But none of us does anything on our own. You know, this myth that every individual makes a difference, but any of us and any success any of us ever have is due to a whole lot of people. So that's where the union comes in. The union helps people. And you're right about the demonisation. The reality is we have penalty rates not because an employer gave it, but because a union asked for it.
Yep.
We have public holidays, we have workers' comp, we have the minimum wage, we have compulsory superannuation because it was pushed for. It was never just given. But at the right time, everyone works together. The real problem I reckon in Australia at the moment is that when the right say something, we pile in on them, and when the left say something, they pile in on it, and just truth's a lot more in the middle, isn't it? But what the Labor does and unions do, and what Labor does is, it's those three things I said to you earlier. We stand up for our democracy. We want to make sure that markets work for everyone, not just the people who hold the power. And we believe in a big, generous safety net: the old age pension, the NDIS, Medicare, the minimum wage, superannuation.
Yeah. No, I really do think that what you've done is admirable. And watching you over the years, you have actually tempered me a lot. And I think that you are right about that, in that you're a negotiator. That's what you do. You're not really a rabble-rouser. You're somebody that kind of gets people together and says, let's work this out. Where are our common interests? That's your style.
The rabble-rousing...
Well, anyway, this is what I hear about you. But you know what I will say as well?
Okay.
And you'd like this. As you know, the Labor Party and the union movement are obviously very bitchy circles. I suppose every office place on earth is. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, I've never heard anyone say a bad word about you.
No,
I'm telling you, it's true.
No.
Every other MP, somebody has an issue with them. No. Everybody always says, if Bill says he's going to do something, he does it. I guess that's why they trusted you so much, and still do.
You've got to build a team. Like, it doesn't matter how... I don't believe in messiahs.
No, you don't.
You got to... There's smart people everywhere you look. What I learned as a union rep is talk to the guy pushing the broom, talk to the woman working in the hospital as much as you talk to the surgeon or the CEO. There is stuff that people know if you take the time to listen to them. Like, I think people are smart. I don't think people are dumb. I think it doesn't matter what your title is. So you would credit your success in life to just shutting your mouth? Just sitting around like a Buddhist monk? Well, no, arguably, some people would say I'd have more success if I shut my mouth more. Really? Yeah, I suspect so. I've watched the reviews of the election, trust me. And also, just while I'm thinking about this, who the hell does the AWU represent? What is this? Gas workers and jockeys. So it's just workers. Yeah, and why wasn't I allowed to join then? I suppose because I'm not a worker. No, I should have signed you up. No, The two types of unions in Australia. There's sort of specific industry or craft unions. Oh, there's three types, sorry. So if you're a nurse, you join the nurses union. If you're an electrician, you join the electricians union. If you're a plumber, you join the plumbers union.
It's a real shame, because we just walked past all the memorabilia there, that all those old school unions don't exist.
And then
how nice would it be if there was still like the Leather Tanning Guild, the Confectioners Alliance,
the felt hatters, the undertakers.
the felt hatters. Where's their representation?
Yeah, in China.
Yeah.
That's where they make felt hats now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's very specified.
So there's general unions as well.
Yeah.
And AW is a general union. You know, we had our critics. People say you should be in a specific industry union, but anyway, that's just, to some extent, they're all historical arguments, demarcations, which union should represent you. The real point is that the collapse of membership of unions, I think, is correlated to the stagnation of wages in this country.
You reckon that's the reason?
Oh, I do. Like, we've had periods of low unemployment. The old theory about people's conditions is that when there's a scarcity of jobs, you have to pay more to people. You know, where there's a scarcity of, where everyone's got a job, and that means that people can ask for more money. Supply and demand. But what's happened is that we've had relatively low unemployment, but wages have still stood still. You know, the wages haven't gone up. And I think that's because we have a casualised underbelly in Australia, where people are in the gig economy. 30% of Australians don't have regular permanent jobs. When Bob Hawke and Paul Keating were running the joint, 90% of people had permanent jobs. Now it's down to less than 70%. And if you don't have a permanent job, if you get hired the day before, if you're casual, you can't ask for a wage rise because they might say goodbye. Whereas when there was more permanent work, people had agency in their job, they could negotiate as a group. So, and this decline of unions, their ability to ask for wages, means that the wages are stalled.
Well, that's a very generous interpretation of what's happening. I just think most people are scabs. You know, like, this is what my mum was saying when she was a teacher. It was just like, she was a member of the union, and then everyone else would be like, well, why do I have to join? I get the same benefits. It's like, you piece of crap.
I know, but there's two types of missionaries, aren't there? There's a missionary who gets up on the soapbox and says you're all bad, and there's the other missionary who says Jesus loves you and come and join me.
And that's you?
Yeah, maybe.
There's a place for everyone.
Oh no, some of your arguments are right too.
I mean, look, the other thing that, what do you think about this argument? Just the fact that industries have they've changed so much as well. You think that's true to it?
Well, it's
and
easy when
as if just the fact that they're not public enemy number one. I swear, when you talk to so many average Australians, if you say unions, they think bikies.
Oh, and no doubt that's why Abbott had a royal commission into unions, and part of it was to say Bill Shorten unions bad. You know, put a bit of mud on and try and dirty up what unions do. So, yes, you're right. There's a campaign by vested interests who say unions are bad, because, of course, if you're getting wage rises, that means that some companies have to share some of their profits with their employees. So there's that. But there's also changing industries. Kinnears used to be a very famous brand of Australian rope. So I was their last union organiser. They shut in 2000. Like, some of the unionised jobs, there was 200, 300, 400 people who'd make rope. But they're all working in the same place making rope. Whereas now, trying to organise aged care workers who visit home care, where there's one person, they never go into an office, they just drive from their home to one, person's house or the next person's house. It's hard to find them, to get them to join a union. So if you like, the way that the modern workplace has changed, and you've got new industries where people aren't all turning up at the same place. Look, it's a lot easier for a union rep to visit one factory where there's 400 people than visit 400 people for, working remotely.
Bill, seeing as you're a history buff and you are part of the union, because I just know this is the standard Twitter argument. They'll say, that's because of Labor's fault in the 80s. Can you explain to us why that is not Labor's fault in the 80s?
Yeah, very simple. The reality is that Labor didn't accord. So they said to the unions and they said to the employers, let's all work together to make this country better, because under Malcolm Fraser it had gone backwards.
Yep.
So they said, let's all work together. And what, Bill Kelty and Keating and Hawke did is they said, all right, rather than unions making big wage claims, let's trade off the big wage claim for 3% superannuation for everyone. So instead of getting a 3% wage rise in 1985, it went into people's savings for retirement.
And the reason that the unions agreed to this is because they realised that they were arguing about...
They were sick of people retiring poor. So why not, rather than just have a wages campaign, why not put that year's wage rise into superannuation? So the 80s set the basis for our superannuation system, which today I read just ticked over $3 trillion. Australian workers, not like American workers, not like a lot of other workers in the world, at least have some nest egg when they retire. The other thing was Medicare. So in the 1980s, in return for unions having more restrained wage outcomes, we created a national healthcare scheme. See, in America, when you employ someone, you've got to pay their health insurance as well. So the crazy thing is, in Australia, where the Liberals opposed Medicare for 9 elections in a row, matter of record, what happened is that employers don't have to pay people's health insurance, they just have to pay them a wage. So by having a national healthcare system, when you get sick, it doesn't become a financial disaster, or it doesn't mean your employer's got to pay your health insurance. So in the 1980s, we set up Medicare, set up compulsory superannuation, and then it opened the door on enterprise bargaining, which drove wages growth. So basically, the wages growth for the last 20 years, the wealth of Australia has been driven by Labor encouraging women to go to work in more numbers than ever before, by superannuation, by having savings, and by real wages growth, which is now petered out under this government.
And why are the Liberals constantly attacking superannuation?
Well, see, I don't know if they believe in compulsory savings or not. The crazy thing is they say, oh, look at all those poor people out there spending their money, they should all save. But when we have compulsory savings, they resent it being increased. So I think maybe either they think that people should just look after themselves and it's not their business to help look after them with compulsory super. Also, the other thing is a lot of superannuation goes into industry funds. There's different types of superannuation funds. The banks own some, so that when you put your money into a bank superannuation fund, they give you a return in your account, but they also take some money for profit for the shareholders. An industry fund is a 50-50 proposition where you have employers and union reps on the board, but they don't make a profit for themselves. In other words, when they invest the superannuation money, all of it goes back to the member of the fund. So what's happened is the superannuation funds, which the Liberals call union funds, merely because there's worker representation on them,
and they
have outperformed the for-profit funds.
Yes, they have.
If there was any other section of the Australian economy where Labor would go to war with and bag, the Liberals would be having conniptions. They'd be having a baby. But because workers have some say on the boards of industry superannuation, even though it's a $1 trillion plus sector, which has outperformed the banks, the Liberals just sometimes, not all of them, but some of their more extreme elements representing the banks just take the idea that they've got to compete with not-for-profit funds who send all their returns back to the members of the fund, and they just think they can't cope with it.
It's such a big idea, isn't it? Superannuation, the older I get, the more I realise it's very clever what's really been set up there, and the fact that there's now $3 trillion that you can pool around, and really you can kind of just create the society you want with $3 trillion.
You're spot on. 35 years ago, people could work their whole lives and retire with nothing. Now, the superannuation balances aren't as big as you'd want, but now people have a nest egg. Now they don't just have to rely on their house. They've got the two big assets that most Australians have, including your super and your house. Once upon a time, it just used to be your house. So that's a good idea. But Einstein, he's always good for an Einstein quote. He says compound interest is a miracle. And so, he said it in German. So I'm reasonably sure that's the translation.
So you can speak German, huh? Okay.
No, someone translated for me. But the beauty is with superannuation, you put the money in your 20s, the interest compounds, and so in your 60s, I know it seems an awful long way off for a lot of young people, you'll have a lot more money than you otherwise would.
I know. This is something that really drives me crazy when people criticise the Labor Party for not being the same party that was in the 80s. Well, I'm sorry, it very clearly is. It doesn't change names like the Liberals did
problem
after
is
World War
the
II.
Liberal Party isn't the same party as it was. I mean, at least for some points, they gave up attacking Medicare. At least they bought into compulsory super. But now the Liberal Party has gone very radical. You know, they still want to attack unions, so some of their things are still the same. But, you know, to have Liberal MPs get up and decry compulsory savings, to have Liberals get up and say you should never ever work with, you know, in a pluralist economy with different interest groups, including unions. I mean, Menzies said that if it wasn't for the union movement, we wouldn't have had the mass migration of the 50s and 60s. And Menzies at least had the honesty to acknowledge that after World War II, when the working class of Australia, working people, had gone through the Depression, never experienced full employment, they finally had full employment after World War II, it would have been possible for the union to say, we don't want to have any migrants here. But they didn't take that view. They took a view that we should take in migrants and people after World War II. And Menzies gives the unions credit for it. But could you imagine this current mob? No, you can't. They haven't had a vision.
No, they really don't.
No, they
It
just...
is insane. But you guys are constantly getting attacked for having no vision.
The problem with the Libs is they can tell you what they're against. It's very hard for them to tell you what they're for. And what this nation needs is not, you know, sure, you've got to test everyone's ideas, but basically the nation is going sideways. I mean, COVID's been very difficult, and so I get that, but we don't have a vision on infrastructure. We don't have a vision on Medicare. They're hacking into the NDIS. They've been in charge of aged care for 8 years, and that's just a disaster. In the environment debate, just hasn't gone anywhere in 2 decades.
Well, it's gone worse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's like the last, I guess at the end of this, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
That it's just been completely squandered
Yeah,
in a time where it is really, really critical to do something about the environment.
Yeah, spot on.
And it's, it actually does really scare me, because this is the thing that, personally, when I figured this out about the Liberal Party, this was the thing that I think completely changed it. It's not so much that they're doing bad things, it's more just the opportunity cost of not having a Labor government in power.
Yeah.
Just years squandered where nothing
That's right.
happens.
And nations, if you fall off the pace, you don't get that time back.
No,
I
but
mean,
what's
what-
insane is you guys had 10 years in the 80s or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And pretty much they've just been riding off the coattails since.
Spot on.
Isn't that insane?
Yes.
10 years of Labor government keeps the country going with 30 years of the Liberals after it.
I mean, what they say is they've changed security legislation 16 times. Well, that's great. But, you know, that's not what you know. Well, that's fine, but...
That's a reason to be the
That's-
government, is it?
Yeah.
You're just basically changing more security code.
It's so when we look at what we should do, like when I think about my kids or I think about young people today, they're getting a rawer deal than ever. You've got to pay more to go to uni. Your TAFE funding's been cut. They don't properly fund schools according to need. They've cut the penalty rates, which a lot of young people depend upon. Harder than ever to buy your first house. And by the way, we'll send you the invoice for fixing climate change in the future. Wow.
What a deal.
Super. Thank you.
I actually do really appreciate you taking time to come talk to us. I just say, Bill, look, I really admire the fact that you are so self-effacing. I really do think that about you, that you're constantly thinking about, you know, big groups, and it's not about me. And that was actually your entire philosophy. That's what I've just observed with it. But, you know, I really do think that you should be dinging the bell about your own accomplishments more, because you've had a lot over the years.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, the NDIS...
I really think that, you know, that should be, I don't know. I do actually think that you're a good role model. You know, like it's just this thing of like,
That's
you know,
good,
if you
Jordan.
focus on groups. See, as
You
soon
feel
as you
free-
start talking about you and like nice things, it's just like, yeah, okay, well, also there should, you know, everybody else should say, but nah, come on, you did a lot.
I'm really happy we did the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance
See,
Scheme.
it was you.
No, it was people. It was a whole lot of people.
And Robodebt, you did that.
Robodebt was good,
Yeah. And you would have saved us from the Black Summer bushfire single-handedly.
probably. No.
Yeah, you would have been holding the huts, yeah.
Hold the hose, yeah.
But yeah, look, honestly, thank you so much for joining me. And Again,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Dr. Rowe, for this broken tail model that
Thanks.
Bill Shorten doesn't care about.
It's a toy. Mine are not toys. This is a toy. This is not real.
It has the colours. Okay, look, I'm not going to get into it.
But it's a nice base, though.
You know what? And I think you know this guy as well, because I think somebody went up to you once and said that. Can we get this confirmed, actually? I remember one of my fans apparently approached you and told you a bit about Miss Love from the podcast, and apparently your response was, "He sounds funny, but what an idiot." Is that true?
No, I'm not sure that is true. I tell you what.
Because you know what? I think you just subbed the guy up. I'm just going to take that as a yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Cheers, mate.
Good to meet you.
Really good meeting you as well.
Long time viewer. First time meeting. Great.
Likewise. Thank you. Man, did that actually happen though?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay.
But I figured.
Classic dodge. Oh.
No, I honestly can't remember.
Well, you know, you can have this if you want for that.
Yeah, mate, these are toys. No, thank you. That's good. I'll have to bring you something next time.
No, you don't have to. That's
we'll
mostly
put it-
just a meme for the channel.
No, I
Really.
will. I'll tell you what I will do though. I will put this on Parliament somewhere, and we'll have it standing. We'll take a photo of it. It's, you know, unusual spots around Parliament.
You will need some. That's cool. That is really cool,
That's
and I
okay.
think that a lot of people will just start following you because of that. Because
I don't mind. It's
you know, there's a lot of virgins out there that really like Warhammer, so they'll be into it.
yeah, I was going to say a lot of bloke virgins. Anyway.
And you should definitely get some super glue, because that's what happens to Kevin Rudd's as well. It breaks every 3 weeks.
Did you give one to Kevin?
Yeah, we gave him a Rudd bot. No, what the hell? No, this is still rolling, you know.
Oh no. Hi, Kevin.
Please share and comment below. Comment.